So money does rule my life, and I'm okay with it. I have found my inner peace.
What do you want to do with your money?
I want more inner peace.
Welcome to the Shark Tank Podcast. Each week, one of the best entrepreneurs from ABC's network smash hit Shark Tank teaches you how to swim with the sharks without being eaten alive. And now your host, serial entrepreneur, TJ Hale.
I yank. I'm a yanker.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Shark Tank Podcast. Thanks for jumping in. I am very pleased to announce I have two people fresh out of the tank. They're still dripping wet with the success and euphoria of being on the set. Cheers, everybody. This is Chelsea and Leigh Ann of Loliware. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, TJ. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, you can thank yourselves because you went ahead and did the smart thing. You contacted me before you aired and said you wanted to come on the show. And here's the deal. When that happens, it's cool because you left like the best voicemail ever. And I had to let you on the show just because the voicemail was so good.
We were in an altered state when we left that voicemail.
Go on.
We were just so excited.
Define altered.
No, we had just heard that we were airing, of course, as we told you on the voicemail. So we were kind of freaking out and we were like, let's do something fun. We'll call TJ and get excited.
I thought you were going to say you had eaten like your 12th Loliware cup in a row and your pH balance was off.
They were all infused with cannabis. Yeah. No, not that kind of altered state. The Shark Tank high.
So here's the deal. That happens every now and then. Not as often as it should, but when it does, I always get nervous because it's like you moved in next door and you were super nice and we had this great time. Like I can't not invite you over for the barbecue after that. But there's always the concern of I picked the best ones. Like I don't interview the dogs from the show because they would be boring and people would be like, hey, why are they on the show? So I'm sitting there going, please be a good segment. Please be a good segment. And here's the thing. Every time, the reason I'm telling you this is because every time someone contacts me, their segment is awesome. It's happened like a half a dozen times and they always blow it out of the water. And so I don't know why I even doubt anymore. Tressa, my wife's like,
if they're listening to your show, they're going to be awesome. They're
right.
going to be fully prepared.
Can I tell you how often people go on the show?
That's part of our curricula.
Can I tell you how often I interview people that go on and they tell me something? Usually it's in the post game because they don't want to publicize it. You know that game. And they'll tell me something they really screwed up on or a deal point that they wish they'd. I'm like, why don't you listen to my show? How much research did you do? They're like, we researched for months. I'm like, I want to pull my hair out. I'm like, of course you made a mistake. That's a rookie mistake. Listen to the freaking podcast.
Wait, what's a rookie's mistake?
So one of them is who you do deals with and who you don't do deals with. Okay. And you actually there's a couple things. So
okay.
One of them is we're going to talk about today, like certain people not being in your deal because they never give you money and you dodged a bullet there. That's all I'm going to say. The other one, it's getting more difficult to close deals with two sharks involved. So I don't have any foreknowledge of whether or not your deal closed, but I know that when you ask for more than one shark, you're taking a risk. Mm-hmm. And that's really all I have written down for you. There's a couple other ones, but one of the big ones is the shark, like I mentioned, and then also the due diligence process. And the big one is getting a deal on TV. People are like, I just wanted the promotion. I didn't want to actually do a deal. Like, that's fine, but most of them don't close. So you might as well shake hands on TV so that you can air. Because if you don't air, you're gone. Like no one ever knows you exist. So
right.
Right.
Yeah. We definitely wanted a deal. We did. We had a cap of what would be worth it to us, but we obviously valued the opportunity of being on the show versus sort of your standard fundraising situation.
Oh, another one that just came to me is the ask. So like if you asked for 150,000, the deal you shook hands on was 600. Once you get over a couple 100,000 per shark, like it turns out they don't really have that much interest in throwing all that money at businesses if they don't have to. So I always just throw that out as a caveat. But you didn't ask for $500,000 anyway. So it was weird that's how did
right.
You
well, we came in thinking, you know what? Obviously, it was clear when they asked us how much we were really raising as our full round that we needed more. But we trimmed it back because we were kind of looking at the formula of, what is most successful in the tank. And that's why we came out with 150 as like a biteable chunk for them instead of the whole amount. But hey, we were really happy they wanted to finish it out.
Thanks to Robert for bringing that up.
Seriously. Totally. So yeah, and that's the funniest thing that happened during your show is that Robert had this great idea. Have you seen the Brady Bunch movie?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's my second movie reference today. there's Jan's character is like, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And she's got voices in her head. And every time she brings up a great idea, Marsha will say it 3 days later. And the film will be like, great idea, Marsha. I feel like that's kind of what happened to Robert on your show.
I know. It was a tough choice.
Like,
it really was.
That was my idea.
Oh my
my
gosh.
idea, Chelsea.
I know.
We love Robert though.
We do.
We thought about, before going into the tank, TJ, who we'd want to target. And we wanted to get a deal with Barbara because of the New York City connection and because of women entrepreneurs in the food space. And then we wanted to deal with Mark because of our strength in innovation, R&D, and food technology. So, and also because he has a lot of great food service contacts in stadiums and elsewhere. So those were our two sharks that we targeted, and it worked.
Yeah, so we love Robert as a stepping stone to get the deal that we really need.
Well, I have to say that Barbara really sold it hard in the tank. And they cut out a lot of her sort of sales pitch to us.
Really?
So it worked.
I've got some of the notes from what she did say to you, but for people whose heads are spinning and they don't remember what the heck we're talking about, you have the edible cup. It's called Loliware. And when you went in the tank, you asked for $150,000 for 10%. A couple of things that caught my attention. One, when you left your message, I went and checked you out. You have a PR mention list like this long. You've been in every major news outlet. You've been published all over the place. I assume it's because you do what you did with me. You just got out there and asked for people to promote you, which is a great idea. You also had raised some money at this point. So let me make sure I got my numbers right. You had $110,000 in sales. You had raised $10,000 and then another round of $100,000. One was family and friends and one was somewhere I didn't write down. So help us understand what was going on.
Sure. So Chelsea and I put in as much investment as we could of our own pockets just to develop the idea. That was the $10,000.
That's the $10,000. And the $100,000 was friends and
us,
family.
Getting things started.
Okay.
And then we did our friends and family of 100. And then when we went in the tank, we were, like we said, 30% through our 1 million raise. So,
and that's where the remaining 600,000 investment came in, was to fulfill that seed round.
So it was, I believe, actually, it was either Mr. Wonderful or Robert. It kind of turned into a blur. He was the one who gave the deal, but they started questioning, okay, well, what do you really need to scale it? They were kind of asking us after we had answered what we were raising and what we had previously raised. They were trying to figure out, well, what do you really need? Not just the 150,000. What do you really need to get this where it needs to be,
right,
a year from now? So we said, well, we need to finish out our round. That's what we really need. And so that's when Robert swooped in with, well, I just want to cover it for you, make sure that you can get it done.
So let's go back to the inception of the company before we talk about how the tank finished out.
Sure.
You're both in college. You have this idea. You're sitting there drinking your beverage, and I'm picturing you going, what would be even better is after I finish this, if I could just pop the thing in my mouth and chew on it and digest it. Like, is that how it happened? Take me through the idea.
Well, it's funny because they cut a lot out about our background, which we'd love to explain a little bit more.
Yeah,
so Leigh Ann and I met at Parsons School of Design, and when we graduated, we started our own innovation consultancy. So we were hired by some of the top CPG companies to develop their innovation pipeline. So we were working for Pepsi, Nestle, other large companies, Pernod Ricard, and they own like Absolute and other large alcohol companies. So we were developing innovation pipelines for them. And on the side, Leigh Ann and I would enter design competitions. We did a competition for Levi's. We did a competition for Jell-O. And this idea was from the Jell-O competition. And, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could replace plastic cups with something that was super compostable and fun? And that was really the kernel of the idea. When we entered the competition, like I said, in the tank, everyone loved it. We got orders for 60,000 orders from Russia. It went viral. And that's really the beginnings of people starting to cover us and wanting to know more about the idea.
Right.
And fast forward 4 years later, a lot of research and development, and then now we just formally launched this year.
Yeah. So essentially, the idea came out of a contest that we entered to kind of just get our creative juices flowing and come up with a concept. And then it was really, encouraging to see what reaction we got. And that's what made us actually turn it into a company versus just a contest entry.
During this 4-year buildup, whether you want to call it your R&D period or your market testing phase, I think you mentioned you didn't start actually selling until right before you went on Shark Tank, right? So were you working all this time? Were you still in school? I mean, what were you doing for all those 4 years while you were developing your product?
Yeah, for many of those years, we were still doing our consulting and product design with other companies. And we were developing the product, and we were getting it started in New York, selling to a few select sort of beta customers, if you will, here in the city, getting their feedback and continuing to work on the product quality and bringing it to a point where it was, shelf stable, able to be shipped across the US, all of those things that we had to solve for.
Gotcha. So, when we were watching it, obviously I was like, there they are. There's my girls, Loliware. Here they are. And I was drinking out of the enemy, right? Here it is right here. And I'm thinking,
TJ!
well, I don't have my cups yet. I'm like, I love this thing so much. I just wish I could eat it. Finally, Loliware gives me what I want. But devil's advocate, if I were KevinO'Leary, what would WWKD? I asked myself a couple questions. What happens if I want to leave this out on the counter all day? Because I do that and it drives my wife crazy, and just use it for the next 3 or 4 days. Is Loliware give me the kind of reusability that I'm after, or do I have to eat it after the last drop, then I got to shove it in my mouth? How long will it sit on the shelf?
Yeah, so it's really meant for parties and special occasions. It's not meant to replace your day-to-day cup. So it's very sturdy, it'll hold your drink and you can continue to refill it, all day long through a whole party, all of that. But it's not meant to be used, over days and days and days.
So TJ, let's paint the picture a little bit more, just
Please.
because. So imagine instead of using plastic disposable cups at events, you would use Loliware. At theme parks, at conferences, conventions, South by Southwest, Coachella, all these high waste occasions where you want to bring something really fun and compostable to the event. So we're really all about replacing plastic at high waste occasions. The events industry is the second most wasteful industry in the world, second only to the construction industry. So events is a really good place for Loliware to be. Right.
That's kind of where you turn the corner during your segment. You're talking about your sales and it took 4 years, and they're scratching their head going, okay, what do we really have here? And then you mentioned letter of intent from Save the Date, and everyone went, oh, let me pull out my checkbook. Okay.
Say what?
And so my wife and I, we watch the show and we think, all right, so where else is this product going to make it? Obviously in New York and San Francisco, people are more mindful about these. Yeah, there you go. But in communities where people are already thinking in a way that they want, that's important to them, and they're willing to spend more money and they have the money. To me, I miss the theme parks. Have you talked to Disneyland? Because they can put Mickey Mouse on anything in that store and sell it for 20 times what you'd pay outside of the park. And who doesn't love to eat stuff at Disneyland? It already costs $20 to buy a pretzel.
We're in talks with them, and we're looking for a theme park partner. So we're talking to a lot of other theme parks along with Epcot and Disney.
Yeah, I would think Disney would make a ton of sense. We bought frozen lemonades there, and I think they were $9 a piece, and we couldn't eat the cup afterwards.
Imagine a Loliware cup, a citrus cup. It'd be amazing.
And I could eat it after. And there's garbage, and they probably employ 100 people every hour just to clean up trash off the ground. So
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfect place for it.
So talk to us about, the other thing that caught my attention was you had talked to Marcus Lemonis online.
It's our buddy.
Yeah. So Marcus Lemonis, 100% hetero guy right here. But, the only reason I would need gay marriage is if Marcus said, hey, TJ, I've been thinking a lot about you. Maybe we should move in together. I'd be like, all right, Marcus, let's be platonic at first. I'll talk to my wife,
Marcus,
but I would do it. So how did that happen?
So O'Leary and Lemonis are your favorites, it sounds like.
Yeah, except I just talked to Bottle Breacher, and I'm a little frustrated with Kevin because he hasn't been doing well on the game show circuit, and I need to talk to him about why that is. Don't know if you saw him on Jeopardy. Don't know if you saw him on, he was on Miss America, which I didn't see, but he was on Hollywood Game Night with Jane Lynch.
Okay.
And he wasn't on top of his game. He wasn't Mr. Wonderful, for sure. He was more Clark Kent, wasn't Superman.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So,
well, CNBC had contacted us last July to be part of. So Marcus has this show that bridges the seasons of The Prophet together. It's called CNBC's The Biz Fix, and the producer contacted us and wanted to feature Loliware, and we were so excited because we're big fans of The Prophet. The Prophet and Shark Tank are number 2 show or favorite shows.
right.
And so we were so excited to meet Marcus, and he was just such a lovely, gracious, incredible individual.
Yeah, he was amazing. He really, we didn't know what to expect, but he really sat down with us and tried to understand where we were at the time. I don't even think we had moved into this kitchen space yet. So we were very, very, very early stage, and he had a lot of good advice for us, I guess. That was before we started our fundraise, so we talked a lot about that. And we talked about his thoughts on like how we should position our products. And we actually ended up releasing an unflavored cup as per his suggestion.
Was it a good call on his part, or was he flat out wrong?
Well,
because even Marcus can probably be wrong.
For me, I feel like it's yet to reveal itself. We do know that most people are excited about the flavored cups. We sell primarily flavored cups, but there are some individuals that want unflavored, and so we do have that clear cup, which we can dedicate to Marcus and see how the sales go over the next year or so.
But I think it's good to keep it on there just to continue to test the market as we, see this spike and like really get our product out there and see what the numbers will tell us if it makes sense.
But he was really excited about Loliware. Like he actually pulled us aside for like a half an hour and talked to us in more depth about, advising and what he believes we should take, what steps to take to make it real. And you could see on the segment, he says, if you can crack it, it's going to be lights out. And, that's something that has really motivated us to make it happen, because we believe that he's right. We believe that we're going to crack Loliware and it's going to be lights out.
So I was just writing some notes down so I can make sure I include them in the blog post later. Now, if you listen to the episode where I had Marcus on and he talked about Mark Cuban, Marcus and Kevin aren't best buddies, but Marcus really had some nice things to say about Mark Cuban. But Cuban's feedback from Marcus was he spends too much time with his entrepreneurs. He spends too much time filming his show. He's too heavily invested in it, which is funny because if you look at any Mark Cuban meme, it's all about working 36 hours a day to crush any competition that ever arises, right? Like you got to quit. Kevin makes fun of you. You got to quit school. You got to leave your family. You got to do all these things that will allow you to be successful. So that's one of the things I like about Marcus the most. I'm not surprised to hear he spent some extra time with you. Do you still stay in contact with him? Do you text him? Do you show up at his back porch, with a list of questions? Is there a relationship there?
We send him email updates.
Okay.
We don't often hear back. We know he's super busy buying crumbs and everything else.
He loves his crumbs.
But he has a special place in our hearts for sure.
Yeah, I would think he would want the lemon flavored, but I guess if the unflavored is his thing, then that, we'll see how that goes.
Right.
All right, so let's talk about getting on Shark Tank. Let's spend at least a few minutes with how that happened. Did they contact you? Did you go to an open call?
Mindy contacted us about 1 year ago, and we love her for that.
Who doesn't?
And we still had to go through all the formalities and the process leading up to it, which is another 8 months of paperwork and pitching. And
the fun part. And
it was an amazing experience. The two producers that we ended up being placed with were just incredible women, and it was just awesome. It was a great experience.
Were you running any kind of Kickstarter or crowdfunding platform when she found you, or did she just happen to find you randomly? Because usually I tell people that 1 in 4 people on the show are found by Shark Tank, typically because they're doing crowdfunding or Kickstarter, etc.
That's interesting.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, she did not find us through Kickstarter. As far as I know, our Kickstarter
she saw us in Oprah, actually. Oprah
okay,
magazine.
Yeah. One of our press pieces.
That's takeaway for people trying to get on Shark Tank. Like, let them come to you. But you got to get out there. You got to do a massive amounts of press, or else they'll never find you. So very good on you for doing that.
Yeah.
Well, before we go back to Shark Tank, it looks like you've been vicious and tenacious getting press. So do you have an agency, or do you just get online and Google and send emails and drunken voicemails to everybody you can think of?
Yeah. So we're brats. We're lucky. No, at the very beginning, when we entered our contest years ago, we put together a really simple press release, just 1 paragraph and 5 pictures or 3 pictures, I don't know what it was, and sent them to like our top 5 to 10 favorite design blogs, because we were in the design world at the time. Sent it out to them, and it all rolled out from there. And so all of like our big heavy hitters, honestly, they came from being on Kickstarter, because we got on Kickstarter way in the very beginning, and people were really interested in, who are like these people who are funding their product companies with this like, thing that was made for funding art projects. So that sort of like was to our advantage in terms of timing. And people just sort of picked it up from like the bloggers that we had got on initially, and then rolling out to the other magazines and such. So the idea really sort of like caught on after that initial press push.
Which was in 2010. So it's continued to roll in like without any efforts for 5 years.
I think you've probably been enabled by the uniqueness of your product. It's probably a lot easier to get media exposure than someone who's in a very competitive market.
Yeah,
it's a really fun thing for people to write about, Writers love us because it's like great for online and magazine piece, and
it's photogenic. And
it's clickbait for sure. But I'm curious about the manufacturing issues. I mean, I don't know if there were products at all like it that existed, or if it's something brand new. I mean, how did you have to go out and use your connections with Nestle to call the right people, or did you basically get on Google and go, who's making Jell-O cups? Like, how do we figure this out?
So, when you ask, like, what have we been up to for the past 4 years, that's basically the main piece there. Is
making
trying to
the
figure out
perfect
this
Jell-O cup, right?
There's no one that makes edible cups, really. There's a few other companies that make, like, novelty shot glasses, but we really had to invent the process from scratch. And we're still doing everything ourselves right now as we scale up large enough to partner with a manufacturer, like with the volume that's necessary to go that route, if that makes sense. We don't have the type of product that can be plugged into a co-packer as easily. So we really have to work to create that process ourselves and find people who want to work with us on that.
Yeah, when you were in the tank, you mentioned that it takes 97 cents to make one, but that it would be about 50 cents once you're at scale, which I think if people don't know that going in, they don't voice it, they're doing themselves a disservice. I thought was great. Because you're telling the investor basically what their ROI is going to be going forward. How much did you say it costs per cup? $1.50? Is that what they were selling for on average?
They sell for $1.50 through food service. Okay. So the Aramarks, we're the official poolside cup of the Four Seasons Hotel. And so we sell to them. We sell direct to hotels.
Wow, that's a great market.
And then we also do, through e-commerce. So if we're doing direct to consumer, it's $3 a cup. Those are our two main sales channels: our food service and e-commerce.
Okay. So have you been able to realize that manufacturing drop, or is that still something that's on the list as far as the cost?
Yeah, we're still, as you know, it takes a while to get your deal actually done after you're on the tank. So we were lucky to air a second episode, but that means we're quite close in terms of, filming in June, getting things done. And so we're still trying to put that money to work soon.
Gotcha.
Coming in any day now.
So the deal is going to go. Usually it's not till about when the show airs, and sometimes Bottle Breacher just recorded. They said that they had a lot longer time and they didn't air until afterwards. Yeah. I'm sorry, they didn't close and fund until afterwards, which I think was like 7 or 8 months, which is not uncommon, and people are surprised to learn that.
Whoa.
So,
shouldn't be that long for us.
Part of it was,
don't scare me, TJ.
Well, this won't be a problem for you. They got a cease and desist letter as soon as they announced they were airing from someone who made a similar product. And Mark Cuban, typically, if he gets a lawsuit letter about anything, it's like, yeah, I don't need this heat. I'll just move along. So, but they still went through with it, but it stretched it till afterwards. So let's talk about your segment and how hilarious it was that you basically kicked Robert to the curb. And I tweeted Mark and said, every time I see a curb, I think of Robert, because this is like the role that he's been playing on the show since Mark Cuban showed up. Robert has this great idea, and then Marsha.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban, he's the Marsha of the show. He comes in and just steals it out from underneath Mark.
I'll tell everyone what's going to happen in this tank.
Let me decide who's in.
Yeah,
that was our favorite
I think, that was the line. Let me decide who gets in. So on the Hangout, we referred to this, we coined a new term. It's called Cubigamy. It's when Mark has a bigamous shark relationship, and you basically have to choose who the other partners are going to be. It's kind of a cool game.
I like it, TJ.
How awkward was that for you to kind of just give the Dwight shun to Robert?
Oh my God. We were in shock. I mean, clearly we were in shock because we kind of thought of that as a potential scenario before we went in. We're prepping for all of the different potential things that could happen.
Right.
And mostly we're prepping for pushback on our valuation, pushback on how long we've been in business, all this stuff, and, push back on, our valuation. So that's what our main prep was. And we had prepped for maybe 30 seconds of, well, what if they offer us more money? What would happen then? We thought, well, here's our cap of how much we're willing to walk away with, gone from our company, sold out of our company. And then we kind of just left it at that because we thought it was such an unlikely scenario, right? Yeah. So we were really caught off guard, I think, when we were offered that, and we were really overwhelmed. I think you could see on our faces in the cut, we're kind of like, okay, yeah, great.
Yeah, well, we were thrilled that he initiated that conversation. So we have a lot to owe to Robert for starting that funding strategy on our behalf.
You should totally send him a 20-pack of cups.
We are.
Yeah.
It's our plan to send him flowers and gifts for the next few
I know.
years.
I'm thinking we just
cups.
start our edible straw company with Robert separately. Just kidding.
Interesting.
But no, I think it came down to us knowing that Cuban and Barbara were our strategic picks before we even walked into the tank. And that's what we knew going in, and having them both with an offer on the table, we couldn't pass it up, knowing that they were the two that were strategic for our business.
And we were in there for probably about around 50 minutes, and we were getting grilled quite a bit and getting, asked a lot of questions, but we held our own. And the reality is, I feel like we could have structured a 4-shark deal. That's really where it was going. In the beginning, we could have gotten all 4 of them in and structured it that way. But Leigh Ann and I, we just kept going back to, we want to just keep it at 2 sharks. And then I think the turning point when we realized that 4 out of 5 were in, Barbara, they cut this out, but Barbara said, don't do a deal with more than 2 sharks. The deal's not going to go through.
Right. Well, she was basically, if we wanted Barbara, we could only take Barbara and Mark, because Barbara wasn't going to do it with 3 sharks, and she wouldn't do it with Robert.
Right.
See, so that's interesting, because that's something you hear on the show, but it's not something they're willing to air on TV. They'll never air that. And I think because they don't want people to know that there are these precursors that cause the deal not to close. That's interesting.
Yeah, Barbara looked at us and she's like, you don't want to do that. It's not going to happen.
The thing, it's not a steadfast and hard rule, because we've seen other deals go through with 4 or 5 sharks, the breathalyzer, other deals. So it's not like it doesn't happen, but we didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah. No, it definitely increases risk. That's fair to say. What was interesting is when Robert brought up the idea of doing the $600,000 for 20, whatever the offer was. I know you closed at 25%. I don't remember what he said he was willing to pay, if that was it or a different number. That's when Barbara jumped in and put her sales hat on big time. Now, a lot of people who watch the show probably don't know that Barbara got all the way to the end of the Shark Tank audition for season 1 and got left at the altar, much like Robert does on a weekly basis. That Lori was chosen over her. And then Lori had a death in the family, and there were some issues, and Barbara basically emailed them back. And I have the letter on my blog that she sent them of why they need to let her try and test her out. And now she's on the show. Did you guys know about this? It's a great story.
No, that's a really cool story, though.
Yeah, so I'll post it in your episode blog, but she basically won her seat back on Shark Tank. And then later, Lori came back on in season 3, and they're like, well, we got 2 superstars instead of 1. And that's a great takeaway for anyone in business, especially a woman entrepreneur who, maybe feels like she's competing with a man or someone who's better qualified. Like, it really comes down to, can you prove that you have what it takes? And so I think Barbara kind of put that hat on with you two, and she kind of laid into you about why she was the best partner. I think her exact line was, you'd be out of your mind to do a deal without me. And here's all the reasons why. So what did they leave out? How powerful was that? How good was her pitch? How would you rate it?
It was strong. She laid it on thick. She was like, that's what she opened with. She said, you ladies are going to be out of your mind if you don't do this deal with me. And then she went on to explain, how, she was in the food business. Her other entrepreneurs are all cut from the same cloth as we are. She's got the right connections. She's in New York City. And these are all things that we knew going into. That's why we're friends
with Pipcorn and Jen and Jeff. They always talk, so highly of her that we knew from the beginning that we wanted to work with Barbara.
So you guys had the inside track on the Barbara partnership, huh? That's valuable.
Right.
I think she said, you can walk outside right now and call any of my entrepreneurs, and they'll tell you that,
like, Jen and Jeff, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, no buyer's remorse.
You're like, too late. Wait, hold on. You're like, we actually just talked to him like 5 minutes ago. So
yeah, exactly.
It's funny. There was an episode last week, I think, before yours, where Lori and Barbara kind of like, they pulled out their equivalent of the man ruler challenge, where you just start like proving who's more of a man, and they use their Shark Tank families. Like, I have a bigger Shark Tank family. No, I do. Mine's more fun. Mark made a joke about, oh, well, let's get our whole family to the dinner table every single night with a Shark Tank. So did that work on you? Like, when she says my Shark Tank family's better than hers, is that something you register and file as that's why we're in this deal, or do you not even care about that?
I don't know that was top on. I mean, at least for me personally, we didn't talk about it before. Of course, there's a lot of opportunity in being like part of a community where you have, all these different people that you can reach out to. But I don't think it was like top on our list of deciding who would be the right partner. Do you think so?
Well, I think that we look at which companies they've invested in terms of analogous features almost, or,
right.
or
I mean,
attributes
the
rather.
fact that
So
she's been
heavily
investing in food.
Yeah, so
That's-
Barbara with food and Mark with like innovation and
Like
tech.
some
So that's-
logistical symmetry
that's
in the
that.
businesses. See if there's any
Yeah.
synergistic. I'm just throwing out words.
Right,
I'm making
But
up.
not for like the clubhouse
We-
factor.
Yeah.
We love Lori, but we kind of knew she was going to be out because it's a different kind of product. We're not going the brick and mortar retail strategy. We're not a QVC product. And so we love her, but we knew that was we weren't targeting her because of the fit. We didn't think it was a good fit.
I mentioned the markets where you're going to probably see the most early success and the reasons why. One of my concerns about Phoenix, at what temperature does this thing melt in your hand? Because it's October 6th. We just had our first non-100 degree high day, like yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that means it's probably freezing everywhere else, but we're just getting under 3 digits. So how safe is it to eat a Loliware in 110 degree heat? Am I going to be wearing it before my beverage is gone?
Yeah, you're probably not going to want to leave it sitting out on the patio all day long in that kind of heat, but it needs to be boiled to really melt. So
Oh,
literally
really?
boiling is like the melting temperature, and even there it holds up like past that. So they're pretty strong.
Are we doing
I'm only
Vegas
pretty
pool
strong.
parties yet? Are you doing all the hangover stuff in Vegas? Is that a possibility?
Well, we want to do the cool stuff in Vegas, not the I don't know,
Novelty?
not the novelty stuff. We want to do the cool stuff. So there's a lot of really interesting restaurateurs and mixologists that are making a name for themselves in Vegas who we're talking to. But we think that'll be a great market. The open container law and just the fact that everyone's walking around with a beverage and a cup is great. We have to teach Vegas how to compost, so that's our biggest hurdle.
Right. Oh, and that was actually one of the jokes I wrote down at the beginning. I think you said 60 days for to go from cup to landfill. Was that to biodegrade a plastic cup, or is that it's like travel time, cycle time?
To go cup to soil, if it's sitting in like a home composter in your backyard in your compost pile, it'll biodegrade in 60 days. The reason that's a statistic that we throw out is for the sustainability nerds. They're thinking about bioplastic that's derived from corn, BPA, stuff like that. It is biodegradable, but it has to go to an industrial composting facility. With Loliware, in order to break down, if that ends
TJ's
up,
like,
he's like, "What's a compost pile?"
No, I'm dialing my father-in-law because he's our environmental nerd. Yeah, he bought it. Yeah, we have a composter outside. He comes and like churns it every couple
There you
days.
go. Yeah, so you can put it in there. If you put a bioplastic cup that's made from corn in there, it's not going to break down. And if it ends up in the ocean, it's going to pollute the ocean and it's not going to break down. So that's why we talk about that cup to soil in 60 days.
Yeah. In fact, when you first contacted me, we call him Recyclops. That's his nickname. I don't know if you ever saw the episode of The Office where Michael Scott does that. Like he did it way before it was cool. He's a freak of nature.
that's great.
Yeah. He takes
Love it.
tuna
He might like Loliware.
He takes tuna cans and like rolls them up with his bare hands so they don't cut someone like at the recycling plant.
Wow.
Nuts.
That's
Yeah.
that's really
he's
sweet,
responsible.
actually.
Recyclops. Yeah, that's my father-in-law. So, I had a great question. I forgot what it was. Oh, I was joking when we watched it. I'm like, so it takes the time from 60 days down to like 60 hours because my Loliware cup will be at the treatment plant like within 48 hours, right? That's gross.
If you
Sorry.
landfill it?
Yeah, no. I'm just kidding. So anyway.
DJ, you have to compost it.
Or you can just eat it. Then
Yeah,
it's
well, that's what I
too.
mean. When I eat it, like it's back, it's through the circle of life, like in 48 hours.
Yeah,
It's back in the environment.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about days.
Just eat your cup. You don't have to even
I would love
compost.
to.
Get rid of
I would love to. I actually remember I emailed you about getting some sample cups so I can post them. But then
Yes,
I thought,
we'll do that.
well, it's so quick. Are you having inventory issues with the Shark Tank tsunami? Like, what's the current status?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely back ordered.
Because my wife is like, are they going to send you some? I'm like, they probably don't have any. Hello. It might be months before they're caught up. So
Yeah, I'm writing it down now. First cups
Oh,
to
man.
TJ.
top of the list. I can see them right there. I can see the cups behind you. Write my name on one of those with a Sharpie.
Okay,
Is that it? Do they come in different sizes?
we have just the one size right now. Our first launch, it's 5, about to be 6 ounces when we do our 2.0 version. And we're going to be releasing a smaller one that's more of like a little taster and or shot size. And then a larger cup as well that's more of like a full size beverage cup.
And we have lots of fun flavors planned for next year too.
Can we submit ideas for like the flavor of the month? Because I've got some ideas. They're really good ones.
You have some ideas?
Yeah, when I go to like we go to the smoothie place or Bahama Bucks, like they hate me because I'm like, the people who go to 7-Eleven or Circle K and they do every single flavor, like my mother-in-law, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
They always taste terrible. You don't want to do that. How big of an ordeal? Like if you have the evil cup, like the cup of the 18th century, how monumental of an ordeal is it for you to add different sizes? Because they can throw a new mold in or new inserts and do this pretty easily when they blow mold them. But for you, totally different, right? How hard is it to do that?
Well, we've had to invent a new way to basically produce our product. And so it's not that difficult to do brand new shapes. And we plan on doing it next year. We're going to have 3 sizes of cups. We're going to be developing edible lids, edible straws, getting into more edible tableware. But we see a lot of opportunity with licensing the material as well. So we'll be working with food and beverage companies to create custom edible packaging. We've already been prototyping this for one of the world's largest soda companies. So a lot of cool things are going to be happening rolling out next year.
Edible packaging, like edible clamshells, that sort of thing? Like what kind of packaging are we talking about?
The easiest thing to do is to do food service packaging. So, cups with lids and things like that, where you go somewhere and you're taking it with you. But people have also expressed interest in literally in retail store edible packaging. That requires a little bit more consumer education and some more, issues and hurdles to get by. But we're pretty excited about just exploring all potential for this new category of biodegradable.
Awesome. Biodegradable. Just so everyone caught that. Biodegradable. So another suggestion, I'm just full of bad ideas. I'm going to throw another one out here.
Bring them at us.
So yeah, like my least favorite part of going to Chipotle is how long it takes me to get the aluminum foil off. So if you guys could make like a biodegradable aluminum foil that I could just bite through.
Just bite through it.
Yeah.
It'll be guacamole flavored.
Guacamole, that. Amazing, with a hint of lemon.
Have you seen the edible burger wrapper that they launched in Brazil?
No.
It was made with rice paper and they flavored it ketchup flavor. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, please do. They stole your, yeah. I mean, if I go to In-N-Out or Five Guys or Chipotle, I just want to bite into it. Like I have a 1-year-old son. That's what he does. He just bites right through the banana peel. Like I want that.
I love it.
People go, ooh, that's gross. I'm like, are you kidding? It's genius. If we could just solve the problem. So let's talk about the details of you punking Robert over, the cubigamy that happened there. You get out of the tank. Take us through the process of what happens. You guys are excited. You're stoked. You go back to your trailer. Go. What happens then?
Yeah. Well, Mindy came in and our producers came in. They were so excited after our pitch and how well it went. We all had like a little bit of a soiree in the trailer and they came and said hello and we said thank you and had fun. And then we just packed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just packed up and went back to the hotel.
Okay.
And then we had some celebrations of our own.
And then you do the airing. Did you have a big viewing party in New York?
We did, yeah. We had all of our friends and our business partners and everyone here in the city had a big party, watched it all together. It was really funny.
How nerve-wracking is it to not know?
People were going nuts.
We made Shark Tank blue cups.
That's awesome.
It was fun.
How nerve-wracking is it to not know? Like I've talked to a couple people who thought they did awesome on Shark Tank and then they saw their airing and it didn't really go that well. Most of them didn't get deals. So obviously there's more leeway to make them look bad.
Nervous. We were nervous of what they would, decide to edit in and edit out and all that stuff. But we did know that there wasn't anything horribly bad that they could cut in, at least, from the answers that we gave, or we knew that none of the sharks had hated it. We knew that they all liked it. And so we kind of knew what they had to work with. And judging from that, we were like, they would really have to edit it, a completely different fashion to have anything traumatic come out. And then we were thinking, you know what, even if they make us into like a total embarrassment, they can't change the ending, so it's still going to be good.
Yeah, all they could do is play one of those emergency weather breaks, right? This is an emergency alert and break away from it, which has never happened. So
yeah, actually there was one part I was glad that they didn't put in, which is when Barbara said, she was like making a joke at me and she goes, Leigh Ann, oh my God, you talk? Because I was being really quiet for a few minutes. So I was kind of happy they didn't put that in, but now I'll just tell everyone.
She thought you were mute or a Vox.
That's
funny.
That's what she said. Right?
Yeah, it was cute though. She was just poking fun at me. She wasn't digging into me.
So I know you mentioned that you're just about to wrap up your deal. How much interaction have you? Sometimes when people haven't quite finished their deal, they're still getting feedback. They're getting set up. They're getting new website services. They're talking to the team fairly regularly. Does that reflect what's been happening with you, or is it completely different than that?
Yeah, so we kind of just were, talking with the teams to get the deal done and not having a whole lot of interaction in terms of actually getting started with our partnership per se. But then once we found out that we were airing so much sooner than we had kind of anticipated, then we were like, okay, let's get our website together. What do you think about this? What kind of Shark Tank specials are we doing? So now we kind of have the ball rolling more quickly and not just talking about getting the deal done.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I know they're vegan, they're gluten-free. Like, is there a ton of, I guess Jell-O, you have to use sugar, right? There's no alternative for that?
We use organic sugars.
Organic cane sugar.
Does it come from a different part of the cane field? Like, when it's organic, what does that mean? Is there like the evil cane sugar and the organic is a partition?
Less processed than white domino sugar.
All right, so let's talk about the Shark Tank Tsunami. Obviously, you just aired, so this is probably the closest I'll ever do a podcast right after airing. What's the experience been like? Phone calls, Nigerian scammers, distributors, like good, bad? Tell us all about it.
All of the above, TJ. I feel like someone's playing a joke on me. It's a great joke, but every time I respond to someone, 4 more emails arrive in my inbox. So it's like for every one that I knock out, 4 more come.
Have you been answering all your own email, or did you outsource that?
We're doing it for now. We thought it would be good to have grow our customer base and to be, genuine and authentic with the Shark Tank crowd.
Personal touch. Yeah.
We wanted to have it come from the founders, just in the beginning. So everything is being written to by us.
Cool. And you mentioned the hotel industry. You're already with 4 Seasons. I think that's awesome. You talked about amusement parks. Like, take us through what your plan, when you air and you've got this plan for how you're going to grow. I know that there are things that enter in that you don't expect or anticipate, but what does the next year look like? What are you really attacking strong? Are you seeing competitors? Are any knockoffs coming into the market?
Well, this year we're really focused on the rest of these. Let's see, what quarter we're in. The rest of Q3 and Q4, we're really hyper focused on the event space. So our partnership with Save the Date, really rolling out in all of the holiday events that are going to come up, New Year's Eve, Christmas. These are all big times of year for Loliware. And we'll be hyper focused on that. And then next year, bringing on more e-tailers that are aligned with Loliware. So sustainability e-tailers, party e-tailers that are really cool. We'll be looking for partners in that way. And then also just driving Loliware sales in high-waist venues. So we're looking to be at a lot of amazing concerts and events in the spring, like I said, South by Southwest and others. And then looking for our theme park partners. So whether that's Disney or Six Flags or Great Adventure, they've all expressed interest, and we're just walking through what that might look like. So just driving volume and bringing new food and beverage experiences to the world. That's what we're really excited about, reducing plastic waste and really revolutionizing this new space that we've invented. And there's really no other competitors other than what Leigh Ann mentioned around the novelty shot glass market. So we have a bit of a first to market advantage, which we're really going to leverage to drive a lot of sales and to be the innovators in this space.
Is there anything you would do differently if you started the whole process over again with Shark Tank? Do you make any mistakes that are glaring now but weren't obvious then?
Oh, with Shark Tank specifically?
Or in general. You can answer both questions.
Yeah.
None? That's amazing. You guys are pros.
No.
What would we do differently in the Shark Tank, you're asking?
I'm just asking if there's anything, if you could go back and change, if you would do it any differently.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs make huge mistakes. We have failures and we learn from them. Is there anything that stands out that maybe was a mishap you could have avoided?
It sounds funny, but our whole Shark Tank experience was pretty incredible. Mindy found us. We got into the final round. We were pitching. We got paired with the most incredible set of producers. We targeted our 2 favorite sharks. We got our 2 favorite sharks. The deal's going through. We're so excited to really bring Loliware to the world. We've just been really focused on that. And we've had a lot of challenges just in the nature of our product is a constant day-to-day challenge. Like you mentioned before, how are we going to produce this at scale? So that's really like sales are not our challenge. It's really producing a brand new product that's never been made before. So I think, the challenge for us is, really delivering on all of the thousands and thousands of cups that we've sold, since airing. Mm-hmm. Sorry if that's like kind of interrelated, but
no, that's a good summary. I'm kind of segueing into, a lot of entrepreneurs, they listen and think, what can I do? Obviously they can't all go on Shark Tank, but after you do the Shark Tank Tsunami, there are things that you've done that they can replicate, whether that's beefing up their server, changing their e-commerce platform, whether that's using different outsourced services. What are the kind of tips and tricks that really helped you? Are there any tools that you use that you couldn't get along without? Time savers, things like that?
Actually, I do kind of, if there's one of the things we could have had prepared before, not necessarily before going in the tank, but before airing, we got our website as ready as it could be. We had just started the total overhaul on our website, and thank God we did our rebrand sort of right after we had filmed and everything. And so we had that ready, and we put together what we could on our site as sort of an interim solution that would get us through our big night. I do kind of wish that we had our full site. We have all these things planned for our full site that'll give people inspiration for what to serve and all the flavors, because we know that that's kind of one of the challenges in converting people, if you will. Like, okay, I think this idea is cool. I think I want to order it, but like, what am I going to use it for? What do I serve in it? So that's going to be a big part of our full website. So I don't know if we could have done anything very much about that, because it's really just about time. But
I think you're hitting upon something important, which is we know that there's consumer education needed around our product. And so our interim website, if you go to loliware.com, it's just kind of a hacked Squarespace. And we're getting ready to launch our new website. We didn't have time to launch it, and we would have had a lot more consumer education explaining how, why, when, and where of Loliware. So that's really what we're going to focus on too. And it's, one of our marketing challenges, but we're really excited about it.
Cool. So you talked about straws, you talked about lids and the disposable service industry. Is there anything else? Like what other products are on the horizon for developing? I gave you some great ideas, and those are free. I don't want anything in return, but what else are you working on? What else is there? Just edible napkins?
Well, before we make you laugh, we'll just, speak more generally. We really think that the cup market, first of all, the cup and lid market is a $74 billion market. And that's the plastic cup market. So if we can really focus on creating the Loliware cup system, that's, I think will be great for us as our cornerstone product. And then as Leigh Ann mentioned, the straw, plates, little bowls, etc., and the licensing. But we do have some funny ideas for what we call Loliware. If you invert the E and the A, you create a new category of organic, all-natural intimacy products. And we've actually had a lot of people interested in this, and we think it's a great licensing opportunity or a side brand for us in the future.
And it's funny because you talk about how there's not really another edible cup or eatery or whatever you call it, but that market already does exist. Like, it's already out there. Is your product?
It's a huge market, and it's done very distastefully and not in a cool way. And we have our finger on the pulse of what's cool. It's what we do. It's what we've already been trained in, and it's what we've done for big companies. And that's what we think is kind of the next big thing. But I also wanted to mention, TJ, something that got cut out of the segment that we're really excited about is we're launching our functional food collection next year. It's a range of functional food cups that have a benefit to the consumer. So we'll be doing energy cups that are infused with yerba mate or green coffee bean. We'll be doing an electrolyte cup for the marathon. So imagine instead of eating those goo packets, you'll eat your cup and then drink the drink, eat your cup, and it becomes the goo packet. We'll be doing partnerships in Colorado for cannabis cups eventually. We want to do a cricket protein cup. So really, there's so much you can do just with this idea that we look
to do hot cups too.
We look at it as a material that can become anything. And so that's really where we're taking it.
Yeah, when you first said it, I'm thinking like a Jamba Juice booster, except you don't have to add a booster. It's just like you have a booster cup, right? It's already infused with what you need. The marathon idea is phenomenal. And because I always joke that like when I'm on a marathon, I just want to drink whole milk and dump it all over me because I'm a milk addict.
Booster cup, exactly.
I think that's a really good idea. Energy cups. Well, I'll say this, as an entrepreneur and the person who runs this show, my first reaction of you two was phenomenal. Like, I played it for my wife. I'm like, I have to have these two on. I don't doubt that's been a big part of the reason you've been successful is because you're so likable. And I think that there's also, I'm saying that because I think that's a huge takeaway for people listening. Like, being fun to talk to, being fun to work with, being fun to interact with can go a long way towards helping you be successful, no matter if you're making edible underwear, edible cups, or whatever else is out there. I do have a question about the edibility of the Loliware. Since that market's already out there, like, how are you improving on the existing product? You mentioned cool, you mentioned taste. Does it have boosters? Like, is there going to, instead of a blue pill, it's going to be like a blue glove that you eat or something?
We want to involve you in the process as much as possible.
That's what I'm getting at. You should. Yeah. I think for...
Yeah, we can put some Damiana in there and have it be like aphrodisiac, edible pasties and underwear. It could be fun.
Well, there are a lot of companies coming out now that, are bringing like toxicity concerns to the intimacy market, because a lot of
That's
all
true.
of these different products are made and they're not very well regulated. Plastics have all types of dangerous things in them, potentially, depending on what it is. And when you're putting something on your skin, it's just like eating it. You're absorbing all those things. So I think, part of the marketing play with Loliware is sort of watching out for all of these toxic concerns. So that's like something we can bring in a playful way.
When does that product website launch so I can see what's available to purchase? Is there like a beta site for early adopters?
You get our first
We're
kit.
going to buy it, actually. Did we buy that website?
We're going to
Don't
buy that.
air this until
Don't
we buy
air
it.
Buy it as soon as we hang
right
up.
now.
Yeah. Is it going to be an Indiegogo campaign with the initial product beta, or is it going to be like a full-on launch?
I think this has Kickstarter all over it.
Yeah, it has
Totally.
Kickstarter. No, we're not sure yet. We've just been really focused on Loliware, the first wear. And I think it would be fun to find a partner to launch the wear with. So
Yeah, and you got some. You can do some wordplay. There's Lolly Bear with the letter switch. There's Lolly Dare for like
Yes.
frat parties.
dare
There's-
to wear Loliware.
There's Lolly Hair for those of us who are a little hair for like the bears, the manly men. I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
That's hilarious.
I had another one. I lost it. Lolly Care.
TJ, were you surprised that Mr. Wonderful didn't give us a hard time? Right when we were pitching and going through the Q&A, grilling session in the tank, Leanne and I were surprised that Mr. Wonderful immediately loved us right away. It was really polarizing.
Yeah, you
'cause we're
expected to hear
we're
him.
not cockroaches?
Yeah, we were so prepared to get
We were
beat
so
up by at
prepared.
least one, if not more, of the sharks.
I
We
did.
were ready for it.
I did
We're
expect him to lolly swear at you a little bit. I'll be honest. I just
Yeah.
figured it wasn't his thing, and he's gonna let you know. But you kind of breezed through it. Were you late in the day? Were they just trying to get out? Like, here's your money, go.
Middle. We were in
No,
the
we
middle
were
of the
right
day.
after lunch, and we served bespoke champagne floats. And so they put us right after so that they got a little dessert. And so it was perfect time of day. But Mr. Wonderful's in a really good mood that day.
Guess so. Yeah, I didn't
We
really.
think it tranquilized him. For
Yeah.
us.
So he had a special booster cup. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
I'm smart.
Exactly. Tranquility.
Yeah, a little roofinol infused cup. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure glad you reached out. I'm excited to share this segment. And I think, unlike a lot of the products that I chat with on the show, I really have no idea what comes after this for you. I wanted you to give me a hint, but it's wide open. There's no roadmap that you're following. There's no Loliware for Dummies book you can read. So I'm curious to follow up with you and kind of see how big you guys can blow this up to. It's exciting.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
TJ.
Thanks,
Awesome.
TJ.
So tell people where they can go to buy. I know you said you do a lot of it through distributors, but can they buy directly online as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Go to loliware.com. We've got all Loliware. Let me do that again. Go to loliware.com. We've got all the cups for sale there, and you can buy them for your next party.
Yeah. And
Loliware.com. The Shark Tank specials are up for another few days. So get your Shark Tank special cups.
Okay. And I'll take you up on your offer to be involved in your new product. I just don't want to be on tape because that'll be a lolly scare. Boom. So
TJ.
you guys were awesome. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you. Cheers.
Thank you for jumping in to the Shark Tank podcast. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes and head over to sharktankpodcast.net to get the show notes from each episode and join the free Shark Tank Insiders list. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Shark Tank Podcast and on Twitter at Shark Tank PDcast.